The twin suns of Valera shone weakly over the royal palace, their light bending across the crystal towers that stretched into the sky. The empire had always been proud and powerful, but now a quiet fear spread through its people. Whispers filled the markets, the halls, even the corridors of the palace itself. The queen was weakening. Queen Riala sat upon her high throne, her silver crown resting lightly upon her brow. Her people saw her as unshaken, calm, and strong, but behind her steady eyes she felt the truth. Her strength was slipping away. For generations, rulers of her kind had required a bonded mate to sustain their life force and to keep the energy shield of the empire strong. Without that bond, the very heart of the empire dimmed. The shield that had protected her world from rival powers now flickered like a dying flame. The council gathered around her throne, their voices sharp and impatient. "You must choose a mate, my queen," one elder said firmly. "The empire cannot survive without the bond." "I have searched," Riala replied, her voice steady though her chest felt heavy. "But none have proven worthy. Strength without loyalty is weakness. Power without heart is danger." The council members exchanged uneasy glances. None dared argue directly with her, yet they knew the truth. Time was running out. Enemies waited beyond the stars. Every day the shield grew thinner. While the council argued, far beyond the palace walls, a human wandered the foreign lands of Valera. His name was Aaron. Once a traveler of the stars, his ship had been damaged in a storm of cosmic debris and had crashed upon this world. He was stranded, far from Earth, far from any familiar star map. The people of Valera had treated him as an oddity, some with curiosity, others with suspicion. Still, Aaron survived. He worked with his hands, helped repair broken machines in the outer settlements, and earned quiet respect from a few. Fate, however, does not wait for choice. It pulls strangers together in ways no one expects. One evening, as the queen prepared to step into the grand hall, a commotion broke out near the palace gates. Riala's guards rushed forward, bringing in a tall human under watchful eyes. Aaron's clothing was worn from travel, and his face carried the marks of hardship, but his eyes were steady. The guards spoke quickly. He was found near the borders, wandering where he should not have been. "Some say he is a spy. Some say he is harmless. We thought it best to bring him here." The council muttered with distaste. "A human? From a broken ship? Why waste the queen's time?" But Riala raised her hand, silencing them. Her eyes rested on Aaron. Something about him caught her attention. His posture was upright though he stood before rulers and soldiers alike. He did not tremble. He did not beg. He only waited, calm as the stone beneath his feet. "Who are you?" the queen asked. "My name is Aaron," he replied simply. His voice carried no fear. "I am only a traveler. I seek no throne, no treasure. Only survival." The council scoffed. "He is nothing. Send him away." But before Riala could answer, a sudden sound cracked the air. A sharp hum, followed by a flash. From the shadows of the hall, an assassin leapt forward, weapon aimed at the queen. The guards reacted too slowly. The council froze in shock. Aaron moved. Without thought, without command, he lunged and pulled the queen aside just as the weapon struck. The blast tore through the air, missing its mark. Guards finally drew their blades, chasing the assassin, but Aaron had already shielded the queen with his own body. The hall fell silent. The queen looked up at him, her breath steady but her heart racing. In his eyes she saw no calculation, no attempt to win favor. Only instinct. Only courage. The assassin was caught moments later, dragged away by the guards, but all eyes remained on the human who had acted before even the trained soldiers. The council muttered in confusion and anger. He is dangerous. He cannot be trusted. He saved the queen, but why? Riala raised her hand once more, silencing them. She rose from her throne, her gaze never leaving Aaron. You risked yourself without hesitation, she said. Aaron shook his head. Anyone would have done the same. The council laughed bitterly. No, human. Not anyone. The queen studied him in silence. Her strength was fading with each passing day, and yet in that moment she felt a spark inside her, a flicker she had not known in years. Could this stranger, so far from his home, be the answer the empire needed? It was impossible. It was unthinkable. Yet the impossible often changed destiny. She turned to her council. You say he is dangerous. Perhaps so. But I see more danger in a world where no one dares act when courage is needed. He will stay. The council erupted in protest, but the queen's word was final. Guards stepped back, leaving Aaron standing in the center of the hall. He bowed his head slightly, respectful but unafraid. From that day forward, the human who had fallen from the stars became a part of the queen's story. The people whispered of him in the markets and streets. Some called him a fool. Some called him a hero. And Riala, though weakened by the lack of a bond, could not stop herself from wondering why her heart felt lighter when he was near. The fate of an empire had begun to change, though neither queen nor human yet knew how far that change would go. The days that followed the attempt on Queen Riala's life were tense. The palace was alive with whispers and careful glances. Every shadow seemed dangerous, and every step in the halls was watched. The council's anger simmered, not toward the assassin, but toward the human who had dared act. Aaron, a stranger from a distant world, had defied centuries of tradition and saved the queen. To the council, that was unacceptable. Aaron, however, did not understand the full weight of the politics around him. He had acted without thought, without desire for reward. His mind focused only on what was right at that moment. That instinctive courage had earned him the queen's quiet trust, but it also made many others wary. Guards whispered behind his back, calling him reckless. Advisors shook their heads, saying a human could never truly understand the ways of Valera. Yet Riala found herself intrigued. She watched him silently as he moved among the palace, assisting wherever he could. Aaron repaired broken machinery, organized supplies, and even helped the palace scholars with calculations they had struggled to solve. The human had no special training in the ways of her people, but he had something more valuable: an ability to see solutions where others saw only problems. One afternoon, as the twin suns of Valera shone high above the crystal towers, a messenger arrived with urgent news. A neighboring empire, long in quiet tension with Riala's people, had mobilized a fleet. They had heard of the queen's weakening power and sought to strike while the empire was vulnerable. The palace erupted in panic. Their numbers will overwhelm us, one council member said, voice trembling. Without the queen's bond, our shields will fail. Riala's hands clenched. She had felt the weakening of her own energy for weeks. Every day without a mate left her more vulnerable. The council's fears were not exaggerated. The empire could fall in days if the enemy attacked. Aaron, standing near the throne, met her eyes calmly. Then we must act quickly, he said. His voice was steady, carrying no fear. We cannot wait for the perfect plan. We must use what we have and make the most of it. The council stared at him, aghast. You cannot understand the dangers. You are human. You cannot command our fleets or make decisions for the Queen. Riala interrupted sharply. And yet he saved my life. He has already acted where others hesitated. I will listen to him. The council erupted into protests, but Riala's word was final. Aaron was given permission to observe the preparations, though he was not allowed to command. Even in that limited role, he found ways to make a difference. He noticed patterns in the enemy's reports that others had overlooked. He suggested tactics based on human experience, improvising strategies that seemed unconventional to the council. One evening, as he walked the palace gardens alone, Riala approached him. The twin suns were setting, casting long shadows over the crystalline paths. You think too much about strategy, she said softly, though there was no criticism in her tone. Your mind works differently from ours. Aaron smiled faintly. I suppose that is true. But different does not mean wrong. Sometimes seeing from another perspective helps. Riala considered his words carefully. Perhaps. But the council will never accept your ideas. They see you as an outsider, a human with no understanding of our ways. Then perhaps they should learn, Aaron replied. If the empire falls because they cannot adapt, it will be their loss, not yours. There was a quiet strength in his voice, a calm defiance that Riala found surprising. Humans were small compared to her people, yet there was a resilience within them that few of her kind possessed. Aaron's courage was not just in defending her, it was in standing firm when all else doubted him. The days passed, and the enemy fleet approached. Riala's energy continued to fade, and worry gnawed at her. Yet each time she observed Aaron, she saw something she had not expected to find in a human. He did not bend under pressure, he did not falter under fear, and he did not seek glory. He acted with purpose. One morning, a new challenge arose. A part of the palace machinery critical to communications had broken. Messages to border outposts could not be sent. The council panicked, unsure how to repair it in time. Aaron stepped forward, examining the complex alien mechanisms with careful hands. I think I can fix this, he said. It may take time, but it can be done. The council hesitated. A human? You would trust a human with this task? Riala's eyes met theirs. Do you see hesitation when he saved my life? Do you see fear when he acts? Then trust him. Aaron worked tirelessly, his hands moving over strange circuits and glowing panels. Sweat gathered on his brow as he studied the alien technology. Finally, the device hummed with renewed life. Communication lines were restored. The council could not believe their eyes, and even the palace scholars were stunned. It seems, he is more capable than we thought, one muttered quietly. Aaron simply nodded, modestly stepping aside. I only did what was needed. Riala watched him, a quiet admiration growing. He was not a ruler. He was not trained for leadership. And yet, in his own way, he protected the empire better than many who had been born into it. That night, as the palace prepared for the coming threat, Riala sat in her private chamber. She felt the weariness in her body, the slow fading of her strength. Yet she also felt a spark of hope. Perhaps it was not the traditions or the council that would save the empire. Perhaps it was the courage of a single human, willing to act when others could not. She thought of Aaron, standing quietly among the guards and advisors, ready to face danger without hesitation. A human with no claim to power had earned a place beside the queen not by birthright, not by strength alone, but by courage and heart. Riala smiled faintly. The empire was in danger, the council was doubtful, and her own body weakened with each passing day. And yet, for the first time in years, she felt that there was a chance for hope. The enemy fleet would come, and the Empire would need every strength it could summon. The council did not trust Aaron, the soldiers doubted him, and the scholars questioned him. But Riala knew the truth. Courage and intelligence often came from the most unlikely sources. The twin suns rose again over Valera, but their light did little to warm the palace. Queen Riala sat alone in the high hall, her hands resting lightly on the armrests of her throne. Her body felt weaker than the day before, her energy fading as the Empire's shields continued to flicker. Each hour without a mate made the danger more real. The council's warnings echoed in her mind, but no solution among her own kind had appeared. Aaron had become a constant presence in her life, moving quietly through the palace, helping wherever he could. His courage and intelligence had impressed many, but the council remained skeptical. To them, he was still a human, an outsider who had no right to influence the affairs of their empire. Yet the queen had begun to see something that none of her people had shown in years. That evening, Riala summoned Aaron to her private chamber. He entered cautiously, bowing his head with respect. She motioned for him to sit across from her. "Aaron," she began, her voice soft but serious. "You have proven your courage and your wisdom. You have saved my life, and you have helped protect the Empire when many could not. You have acted without fear and without desire for reward." Aaron looked at her, unsure where this conversation might lead. "I have only done what was right. That is all." Riala leaned forward. Her eyes were steady, yet there was an urgency in her gaze that Aaron had not seen before. "The truth is, I am weakening. The bond that sustains a queen of my kind is not with me. My life force fades, and with it, the safety of the Empire." Aaron's brow furrowed. "There must be a way. There is always a way." She shook her head slowly. "There is only one way now. The bond requires a mate. I cannot survive without it. If I do not find one, the Empire will fall, and my people will suffer." Aaron's heart sank. He had seen the toll that the palace politics and the failing shields had taken on the queen, but he had not realized the full danger. "Is there no one among your own people?" he asked gently. "There are many," she said. "But none are worthy. None possess the courage, the heart, or the loyalty to stand beside me. And time grows short." Aaron was quiet for a moment. He understood the weight of her words. He was a human, a stranger from another world. He had no claim to power, no noble blood, no training in the ways of ruling. And yet, he felt a pull within him, a sense of responsibility that he could not ignore. Riala studied him carefully. "I ask something that has never been done," she said. "I ask you, to become my mate. Not for tradition, not for ceremony, but to save my life and the Empire." Aaron's eyes widened. He had expected many things from his time on Valera, but never this. "Me," he whispered. "I am not of your kind. I am not worthy." "I could never." "You have already proven your worth," she interrupted. "In courage, in intelligence, in loyalty. You have saved my life. You have seen the Empire's need and acted without hesitation. That is more than many of my own people could do." Aaron looked down, conflicted. "I do not understand your customs. I do not understand your rituals or your ancient bonds. I am only a human. I could fail you." Riala leaned closer, her voice calm but firm. "Perhaps. But failure is not guaranteed. Courage and heart are stronger than tradition alone. I believe that you could succeed where others have not. And the Empire has no time for doubt." The room was quiet for a moment, broken only by the soft hum of energy flowing through the palace. Aaron took a deep breath, feeling the weight of her words. He was far from home, a simple traveler with no claim to power, and yet he felt a surge of determination. If this was the choice that could save a world, then he could not turn away. "I will try," he said finally, his voice steady. "I do not know what will happen, but I will try." Riala's eyes softened, a faint smile touching her lips. "That is all I ask. The bond requires more than bloodline or strength. It requires courage, loyalty, and trust. You already have all three." The council, however, did not share her calm. News of her decision spread quickly through the palace. The advisors and generals gathered, their voices rising in protest. "This is madness," one shouted. "A human? A stranger? He has no claim to this throne or to the life of the queen. Do you not see the danger?" another added. "If we follow this path, the empire will fall." Riala stood, her voice ringing through the hall. "Enough! This decision is mine alone. My life, my people, and my choice belong to me. Aaron has proven himself. His courage is greater than many born into this world. I will not allow fear and tradition to dictate what must be done." The council fell silent, though many remained unconvinced. The palace guards looked at Aaron with suspicion, yet none could deny the truth. They had seen his courage with their own eyes. Aaron felt the pressure of their eyes, but he stood straight. He could not falter now. He had agreed, and the future of the empire depended on it. "I will do my best," he said, his voice firm. "I will honor the queen and protect the empire with all that I have." Riala stepped closer, placing a gentle hand on his shoulder. "That is all I ask. Together, we will face what comes, and the bond will guide us." For the first time in days, Riala felt a sense of hope. The fading energy within her began to stir slightly, as if recognizing the courage of the human beside her. She knew the path ahead would not be easy. The council would resist, the people might doubt, and the trials of bonding would test them both in ways they could not yet imagine. But she also knew that for the first time in years, she was not alone. Aaron, though still uncertain, felt a quiet strength settle in his chest. He was far from home, facing challenges he could never have predicted, and yet he had chosen to step forward. The weight of responsibility pressed heavily upon him, but he did not shy away. That night, as the twin moons of Valera rose high in the sky, the queen and the human stood together on the palace balcony. The city below shimmered with lights and crystal towers, and the faint hum of energy flowed through the air. "You understand what this means?" Riala asked softly. "I understand that much is at stake," Aaron replied. "I understand that I may fail. But I also understand that I will not turn away. Not now." Riala nodded. "Then we begin. The empire depends on us, and so do our people. The bond is more than tradition. It is life itself." Aaron looked out over the city, feeling the enormity of his choice. He was human, far from home, and untested in ways that mattered most. Yet he felt ready to face what came, knowing that courage and loyalty could sometimes surpass bloodlines, strength, or expectation. And so, in the quiet night under the twin moons, the first step of their impossible path began. The human and the queen, two souls from different worlds, would walk together into a destiny none could have imagined. The sun rose over the crystal towers of Valera, casting light across the palace as the day of the trials approached. The council had prepared an ancient path for any potential mate to prove themselves. For centuries, no human had ever faced it. It was designed for warriors of Riala's kind, creatures strong, agile, and powerful. Yet now, Aaron, a human from another world, would walk that path. The first trial was a test of strength. Massive stone doors stood before him, etched with symbols that glowed faintly. The doors could only be opened by applying force in a precise way, using both physical power and understanding of the energy within them. The guards whispered among themselves. How could a human succeed where trained warriors had struggled? Aaron examined the doors carefully. He placed his hands upon the symbols, feeling their vibrations. He realized the strength was not in brute force alone, but in timing and balance. With patience and careful attention, he pressed, shifted, and pushed. The doors groaned but slowly began to move, opening fully after several tense moments. The crowd murmured in astonishment. Queen Riala watched quietly from her throne, her expression unreadable. She knew the trials were harsh, but she also knew that courage often came in unexpected forms. Aaron stepped through the doors, moving to the next challenge. The second trial was one of wisdom. A labyrinth of mirrors awaited, each reflecting countless illusions. The path forward was hidden, and many who entered became lost, trapped in endless corridors of deception. Aaron walked carefully, observing the reflections. He noticed patterns in the way light shifted and shadows moved. He realized that some paths reflected reality while others only showed what the mind feared. Slowly and steadily, he traced the correct path, guided by logic and careful observation. He emerged on the other side, unshaken and unhurt. The council exchanged nervous glances. They had doubted him, yet each trial revealed more of his unexpected capability. Guards who had whispered derisively now watched in silent awe. The third trial tested loyalty and heart. Aaron was led to a chamber where holographic illusions of his loved ones appeared. Each illusion pleaded for him to leave the trials, to abandon the path and return to safety. The images were so realistic that even the strongest felt torn. Aaron felt the ache of longing, but he remembered Riala's words. The bond required more than strength or intelligence, it required courage of spirit. He turned away from the illusions, moving forward without hesitation. Queen Riala's gaze softened. She had seen many warriors falter at this trial, choosing personal comfort over duty. Yet Aaron's heart had held firm. The final trial was a test of courage. A deep chasm yawned before him, a void filled with shifting lights and shadows that played upon fear itself. A bridge formed only as the traveler stepped forward, but the path was narrow, swaying, and unstable. One misstep could lead to a fall into darkness. Aaron's hands trembled slightly as he stepped onto the bridge, but he focused on the rhythm, his steps guided by balance and determination. The illusions of failure and doubt attempted to shake him, whispering fears of falling and losing everything. Yet he pressed on, feeling a quiet strength from within. Step by step, he crossed the chasm, reaching the other side with steady resolve. The crowd erupted in quiet awe. A human had completed trials meant for warriors of the Queen's species. Even the council, though still hesitant, could not deny the truth. Aaron had proven himself worthy not by strength alone, not by noble birth, but by courage, intelligence, loyalty, and heart. Queen Riala rose from her throne, stepping forward as the final echoes of the trials faded. "You have succeeded where many would have failed," she said. Her voice carried pride and relief. "You have shown that worth is not only measured by bloodline or strength. It is measured by courage, by heart, and by the choices we make in the face of fear." Aaron bowed his head respectfully. "I did what I had to do," he said quietly. "I only followed the path that seemed right." Riala smiled. "And yet that path has saved the Empire and given hope where there was none. Your actions have proven that humans, though small in stature, can achieve greatness beyond expectation. The council could not argue. They had witnessed the impossible. A human had walked the trials, facing strength, illusion, fear, and temptation, and had emerged successful. Guards who had doubted him now nodded respectfully. Scholars who had whispered of impossibility now recorded every detail, amazed at his ingenuity and spirit. The queen led Aaron to the center of the hall, where a faint glow of energy began to surround them. "The trials are complete," she said softly. "The bond can now be formed, but the journey is not over. You have proven your worth, yet the true challenge begins when we unite. The bond is not only strength, it is trust, courage, and the will to protect each other and the Empire." Aaron nodded, feeling the weight of responsibility settle upon him. Each trial had tested more than his physical ability, it had tested his heart, his mind, and his spirit. He understood now that the journey he had begun was larger than himself, larger than the Empire, and larger than any challenge he had faced before. Riala placed her hand on his shoulder. "Rest now, for the days ahead will demand even more from both of us. The Empire's enemies wait, and our bond must be stronger than ever to face them. Yet for this moment, know that you have proven yourself. You are worthy, not by birth, but by courage and heart." Aaron looked around the hall, at the council, the guards, and the people who had gathered to witness the trials. He felt a quiet pride mixed with humility. He was far from home, yet he had shown that even a human could rise to meet challenges that seemed impossible. The twin suns began to set, casting long shadows across the crystal towers. Riala and Aaron stood together, side by side, as the glow of the trials faded but left a mark upon all who had watched. A human had walked the path of warriors, faced fear and temptation, and proven that courage and heart could surpass expectation. In that quiet moment, the queen felt a spark of renewed energy. The fading light within her stirred slightly, responding to the courage of the human beside her. She knew the path ahead would not be easy, the enemy fleets were still approaching, and the bond they would form required more than trials. Yet for the first time in years, she felt hope. Aaron, feeling the weight of the Empire upon his shoulders, understood the truth. Courage was not limited by size, species, or tradition. It was measured in choices, in heart, and in the willingness to stand when all others faltered. And he would stand, not for himself, but for the Queen, the Empire, and the future that depended upon them both. The twin sons of Valyra were at their peak, casting brilliant light across the palace as preparations began for the sacred union. The halls were filled with soft murmurs of excitement and curiosity. The people had witnessed the trials and now knew that the human, Aaron, had proven himself. The Queen had chosen him, and the day had come to seal the bond that would protect the Empire and restore her fading strength. Riala stood at the center of the grand hall, her silver robes flowing like liquid light over the crystalline floor. Her crown rested lightly on her head, glowing faintly with the energy of her royal essence. Around her, the council and palace officials had gathered, still cautious but unable to deny the extraordinary events that had led to this moment. Guards lined the walls, vigilant yet respectful, while the citizens who had been allowed inside watched in quiet awe. Aaron stepped forward, his human form standing tall among the alien grandeur. He was dressed simply, yet with dignity, and his eyes held a mixture of determination and reverence. He felt the weight of the moment but also a quiet strength. He had faced trials that no human had faced before, and now the final step approached, a union that would not only save a queen but also change the fate of a civilization. The ritual began with the energy of the twin suns converging above the palace, casting a radiant glow upon the participants. Riala extended her hand toward Aaron, and he took it, feeling a surge of warmth and energy as their hands met. It was not a touch of flesh alone, but a connection that reached deep into their spirits. The energy of the Queen's essence flowed toward him, and Aaron's courage and heart responded, creating a bond that was both fragile and powerful. The council chanted the ancient words, their voices rising and falling in harmony with the energy that surrounded the hall. Aaron closed his eyes, focusing on the connection and the responsibility it carried. He felt the weight of the empire, the lives of countless people resting upon him, and yet he felt no fear. Only resolve. Riala's voice broke the chant, soft but firm. This bond is more than tradition. It is life itself. Together, we are stronger. Together, we are unbroken. Aaron felt the energy flow through him, weaving a connection that was both physical and spiritual. He sensed her strength, her wisdom, and her courage mingling with his own human essence. It was unlike anything he had ever felt, an awareness of life itself, of duty and heart intertwined. He realized that the bond was not about dominance or control, but about trust, loyalty, and unity. The energy around them intensified, spreading outward to touch the walls, the towers, and the people who watched. The citizens of Valera gasped as the air seemed to hum with power. Light shimmered across the crystalline floors, and the faint hum of the Empire's energy shield responded, growing stronger with every heartbeat. Riala and Aaron remained connected, their hands tightly held as the final step approached. The council watched in silence, some with doubt still lingering, yet unable to ignore the visible power radiating from the bond. The palace guards felt a shift in the energy, sensing strength that was not born from numbers or weaponry, but from unity and courage. The final step of the ritual required a spoken promise, a declaration of trust and dedication. Riala looked into Aaron's eyes, her gaze steady and unwavering. "Do you pledge to stand by me, to protect this empire and its people, to honor the bond that now joins our lives?" Aaron's voice was clear and strong, carrying the weight of his heart. "I pledge it. I will stand beside you, protect the empire, and honor this bond with all that I am." A hush fell over the hall as the Queen repeated the words, her own voice carrying the energy of her royal essence. "I pledge the same. Together, we are unbroken. Together, we are strong. Together, we are life." The energy of their union surged outward, filling the palace with light and warmth. The citizens gasped as the fading shields of the empire shimmered and strengthened, the protective energy spreading to the borders and beyond. The bond was complete, and with it came a renewed sense of hope and power. Riala looked at Aaron, her eyes filled with gratitude and quiet pride. "The bond is formed. You have proven your courage and your heart. You have saved not only me but our people." Aaron felt a sense of humility and strength. He had never imagined that a human could hold such responsibility, yet he now understood that courage and loyalty were not limited by species. The Queen had trusted him, and together, they had created something stronger than either could have achieved alone. The council, once doubtful, now bowed in respect. The guards and citizens followed, acknowledging the bond and the human who had earned his place beside the Queen. Some still whispered in astonishment, but there was no longer doubt. Aaron had proven himself worthy, and the empire could see the power of courage and heart in action. As the day continued, celebrations began throughout the palace and city. The bond between Riala and Aaron became a symbol of hope, a reminder that even in the darkest times, courage, loyalty, and trust could overcome fear and uncertainty. The twin suns began to set, casting long shadows across the crystal towers, yet the light of their union glowed brighter than any sun. Riala and Aaron walked together through the palace gardens, the energy of their bond flowing quietly between them. They spoke in soft tones, planning for the challenges ahead and understanding the responsibility that now rested upon their shoulders. The empire depended on them, and they were ready to face whatever came next. Aaron looked at the Queen, feeling a quiet sense of purpose. "I understand now," he said. "The trials, the bond, the responsibility, it is not just about strength or tradition. It is about heart, courage, and the choices we make." Riala smiled, her gaze steady. "You have proven that, Aaron. Together, we are more than tradition. Together, we are life itself. And together, we will face whatever comes." As night fell over Valera, the palace glowed with a soft energy that spread across the city. The bond had not only renewed the Queen's strength but had also strengthened the people's spirit. They looked to the future with hope, inspired by the courage of the human who had walked into their lives and the Queen who had trusted him. In the quiet of the palace, Riala and Aaron stood together, feeling the connection that would guide them through the challenges ahead. The enemy fleets still approached, but now, for the first time in many cycles, the Empire was ready. The bond was formed, the trials were complete, and a human and a Queen stood united, a symbol of courage, hope, and the extraordinary power of trust and loyalty. The morning sun rose over Valera, casting a warm light across the city, but the calm was only a brief illusion. Far beyond the horizon, enemy fleets gathered, their metallic hulls gleaming in the sunlight. Word of the Queen's weakened state had spread across the stars, and rival empires saw an opportunity to strike. The empire that had once been feared for its power now faced its greatest test. Inside the palace, Queen Riala and Aaron stood together, observing the reports brought by scouts and sensors. The human's eyes scanned the data quickly, noting positions, numbers, and patterns. He could see the enemy's strategy, predicting their moves in ways the council had not considered. "They are not just attacking," Aaron said, his voice calm but firm. "They are dividing their forces, hoping to overwhelm us in parts. If we respond traditionally, we will lose." The council members exchanged uneasy glances. They had never heard such suggestions from a human before. Their strategy had always relied on raw power and the energy of the Queen's bond alone. Yet Aaron's logic was clear. Riala nodded, her hand resting lightly on his. "Your insight is valuable," she said. "Prepare our defenses as you see fit. We will follow your guidance." The council protested loudly. "A human is guiding our fleets? This is madness," one elder shouted. Riala raised her voice, steady and commanding. "I choose what is best for the Empire. You will follow the plan or step aside." With her support, Aaron immediately began organizing the defense. He divided the forces strategically, placing smaller fleets in positions to distract the enemy while the main forces prepared for a decisive strike. He suggested using the energy of the palace and the bond with the Queen in new ways, focusing it to strengthen shields and enhance the precision of their attacks. The enemy arrived at noon, the sky darkening with their vast fleet. The citizens of Valera watched from the city towers, feeling fear and anticipation as their protectors moved into formation. The human and the Queen stood together on the balcony, observing the approaching threat. "They are more numerous than we expected," a council member whispered. Aaron shook his head. "Numbers are not everything. Strategy, timing, and courage will determine the outcome. We have both on our side." The first attack came swiftly. Enemy ships fired energy beams, striking the outer defenses of the city. Shields flared brightly as they absorbed the impact, yet cracks began to appear. Guards and pilots felt the tension, unsure if their efforts would be enough. Aaron moved quickly, issuing instructions that combined human ingenuity with the alien technology of Valera. Small fleets darted in unexpected patterns, drawing enemy forces into traps and dividing their focus. Meanwhile, the queen directed her energy through the palace, reinforcing the shields and providing bursts of strength to the defending forces. The council watched in silence, astonished at the effectiveness of the humans' tactics. They had always relied on tradition, expecting victory through strength alone. Yet Aaron's approach was different, unpredictable, and highly effective. Enemy ships fell one by one, caught in ambushes they could not anticipate. During a brief pause in the battle, a sudden attack struck near the palace gates. Aaron and Riala raced to oversee the defense personally. Enemy soldiers attempted to breach the palace, hoping to capture the queen and disrupt the bond. Guards struggled to hold the line, but Aaron directed their movements with clarity and precision, positioning defenders in ways that minimized casualties and maximized protection. The queen, standing beside him, channeled her energy directly through him, a visible manifestation of their bond. A pulse of light spread outward, knocking back enemy forces and reinforcing the guard's strength. Citizens watching from a distance gasped as they saw the combined power of the human and the queen in action. As the day wore on, the enemy fleet attempted to regroup, but Aaron had anticipated their moves. He adjusted the defenses dynamically, setting up decoys and redirecting energy flows to keep the attackers off balance. The twin suns reflected off the ships, blinding some enemy sensors, while others fell into carefully laid traps. The council could no longer deny the humans' value. Their whispers of doubt had been replaced by quiet awe. Aaron's strategies were saving lives, protecting the city, and allowing the queen's energy to remain strong. Even the palace guards, who had once doubted him, now fought with renewed confidence, inspired by his calm determination. Hours passed, and the battle reached its climax. Enemy command ships attempted a final assault on the palace itself, focusing all their firepower on the seat of the queen's energy. The shields flickered under the pressure, and for a moment, it seemed the enemy might succeed. Aaron, seeing the danger, acted without hesitation. He directed energy from the queen, amplifying it through carefully focused channels and distributing it across the shield network. The blast of enemy fire hit the reinforced shields, rebounding with force and scattering the attackers. Enemy ships faltered, some retreating, others destroyed by precise counterattacks. Riala felt the bond strengthen as she poured her energy into the defense. Her own strength, once fading, was revitalized by Aaron's courage and guidance. Together, they became a force that no enemy had expected, a combination of instinct, intelligence, and trust. By sunset, the enemy fleet had been forced to retreat. The city of Valera stood victorious, though not without cost. The citizens cheered, celebrating the human and the queen who had saved them. The council, humbled by the events, finally acknowledged the truth they had underestimated the power of courage, heart, and unconventional thinking. Riala turned to Aaron, her eyes shining with gratitude. "You have saved the Empire today," she said. "Not by bloodline, not by training, but by courage and wisdom. The bond between us has proven stronger than any enemy." Aaron nodded, exhausted but proud. "We acted together," he said. "Your strength and guidance made this possible. I only followed what I could see and understood." The citizens of Valera would speak of this day for generations. A human, far from his home, had become the unexpected protector of an empire. Together with the queen, they had faced overwhelming odds and emerged victorious. The twin suns set, casting a golden glow over the palace, symbolizing hope, unity, and the extraordinary power of courage. In the quiet of the palace after the battle, Riala and Aaron stood together, surveying the city below. Though the threat had been repelled, they knew that challenges would come again. The empire depended not only on their strength but on their ability to work as one, combining courage, intelligence, and trust to face whatever dangers lay ahead. Aaron felt the weight of responsibility but also a quiet certainty. Courage was not limited by species. Strength was not defined by tradition alone. And trust, once earned, could bind even the most unlikely allies into a force capable of overcoming any enemy. Riala placed her hand lightly on his shoulder. Today, we have shown our people what is possible. Tomorrow, we prepare for whatever comes next. Together, we are more than a queen and a human. We are the hope of the empire. Aaron looked out over the city, feeling the bond between them stronger than ever. The enemy had struck, but they had been met with courage, strategy, and unity. The trials had prepared him, the bond had strengthened them, and now the empire was safe for today. As night fell over Valera, the city shimmered with lights and energy. The battle was won, but the journey continued. Queen and human, bonded by courage and trust, would face the future together, stronger than any threat that could come from the stars. The twin moons of Valera rose high in the night sky, casting silver light over the palace and the city below. The battle had ended, the enemy fleet had retreated, and the empire had survived. Yet Queen Riala knew that victory was only the beginning. The future would demand vigilance, wisdom, and unity. And at her side stood Aaron, the human who had proven himself time and again, earning a place beside her not by birth or power, but by courage, loyalty, and heart. The palace was quiet now, filled with the soft hum of energy that pulsed from the bond between them. Riala walked through the corridors, Aaron close behind, observing the effects of the bond on the palace and the people. The energy of the queen flowed through him, not to dominate, but to strengthen, to guide, and to protect. Together, they were more than the sum of their parts. Aaron, Riala said, her voice gentle, yet filled with purpose, the empire has survived this attack, but we cannot allow ourselves to be complacent. The enemy will regroup, and other threats may come. We must ensure that the people are prepared, that the council is united, and that the bond remains strong. Aaron nodded, understanding the weight of her words. We have faced danger before, and we have overcome it, he said. Now we need to build strength, not only in weapons and defenses, but in trust, courage, and wisdom. The empire will follow where we lead together. Riala smiled faintly. You have learned quickly, Aaron. Faster than any human I have ever known. Yet it is not only your intelligence that matters, it is your heart, your willingness to stand when others falter. The council had gathered once more, their expressions a mixture of respect and lingering doubt. Aaron addressed them directly, calmly, yet with authority born of experience. The trials have shown that courage and wisdom can come from unexpected places. We cannot rely solely on tradition. The empire will survive only if we adapt, if we work together, and if we trust those who have proven themselves. The council listened, and for the first time, many of them nodded in agreement. They had seen Aaron's actions, witnessed the bond with the queen, and realized that the strength of the empire was no longer defined solely by lineage or ritual. The future required courage, intelligence, and unity. Riala turned to Aaron, placing her hand lightly on his arm. Together, we must guide the empire, she said. Not as queen and human alone, but as partners, bonded by choice, trust, and duty. Aaron felt the quiet warmth of her energy, the bond between them stronger than ever. He had come from a distant world, untested and alone, yet he had risen to a responsibility that few could imagine. The trials, the battles, and the sacred union had all led to this moment, a moment where he could shape the future of an entire civilization. Days passed, and the empire began to recover and rebuild. The bond between Riala and Aaron continued to grow, not only strengthening the queen but inspiring the people. Citizens saw in their leaders a symbol of hope, courage, and the extraordinary power of trust. The city streets hummed with renewed energy, markets reopened, and the palace became a center of innovation and learning, guided by the insights of both queen and human. Aaron found himself walking through the gardens one morning, observing the people as they worked. Children played near the crystal fountains, their laughter echoing through the towers, while engineers and scholars discussed improvements to the city's defenses and energy systems. The human smiled quietly, realizing that courage and dedication had a ripple effect. Small actions, guided by heart and wisdom, could change the course of history. Riala joined him, her presence calm and steady. "Do you see, Aaron?" she asked. "The Empire is stronger now, not only because of the bond or the victories, but because of the hope we have inspired. Courage is contagious, and trust empowers even those who never thought themselves capable." Aaron nodded. "I see it. And I understand now that the bond we share is more than personal. It is a symbol for all of Valera, a reminder that courage, loyalty, and heart can overcome fear and doubt." The queen's eyes softened, and she smiled. "You have learned well. And yet, our work continues. There will be threats, challenges, and decisions that test us. But together, we are unbroken. Together, we are the strength of the Empire." The months that followed were a period of growth and renewal. Aaron continued to work alongside Riala, guiding the Empire's defenses, improving strategies, and fostering unity among the people and the council. Their bond remained the core of this strength, a visible and invisible thread linking courage, wisdom, and heart. Stories of the human who became queen's mate spread across Valera and neighboring worlds. People spoke not only of his bravery in battle but of his heart, his intelligence, and his unwavering commitment to the Empire. The tale inspired future generations, reminding them that greatness could come from unexpected places, and that trust and courage could change the fate of entire civilizations. One evening, as the twin moons rose again, Riala and Aaron stood on the balcony of the palace, looking over the city. The lights shimmered like stars fallen to the earth, and the soft hum of energy pulsed gently through the air. "The Empire is safe," Riala said softly. "But it is not only safety that matters. It is hope, trust, and unity. You have given all of that, Aaron, and more." Aaron looked at her, feeling a deep sense of purpose and fulfillment. "We have given it together," he said. "Your strength and wisdom, combined with courage and heart, have shaped the future. I am honored to stand beside you." Riala placed her hand lightly on his. "And I am honored to have chosen wisely. Our bond is eternal, and so is the legacy we create." Together, they looked out over the city and the stars beyond, knowing that their partnership had changed the course of history. The Empire would endure, guided by the courage of a human and the strength of a queen, united in trust, loyalty, and purpose. The citizens slept peacefully, unaware of the challenges that had passed and the unity that had preserved their world. The twin moons rose higher, casting silver light over towers, streets, and gardens, a quiet witness to the bond that had reshaped destiny. And in the quiet palace, Queen Riala and Aaron stood together, feeling the power of the bond, the responsibility of leadership, and the extraordinary promise of what lay ahead. They had faced impossible trials, overwhelming enemies, and ancient traditions. Yet through courage, loyalty, and heart, they had created an empire stronger than any had imagined. The story of the Queen and the human would be remembered for generations, a tale of courage, trust, and unity that transcended worlds. Their legacy was not only the survival of the empire, but the inspiration they gave to all who followed, that even the most unlikely of heroes could shape destiny, and that courage and heart could triumph over fear and doubt. As the twin moons glowed softly above Valera, Riala, and Aaron stood side by side, ready to face the future together, unbroken and eternal. The empire thrived, the people flourished, and the bond between queen and human became a legend that would last through all ages.